What's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today I'm going to be taking a look at one of the most hated films in existence, at least in modern times. It's the Emoji Movie. The Emoji Movie focuses on Gene, a mad emoji that, according to everybody else in existence, he's a malfunctioning emoji because he can emote more than just one emotion, which isn't very welcome in his hometown of Textopolis. This malfunction causes his city to plot his deletion, and to avoid that, he travels across the phone universe to find a hacker that could potentially fix his malfunction and return to a sense of normalcy. This is at least the third time that I've watched this movie in order to talk about it in some sort of fashion. The first time I wrote a review on my website. The second time I ended up having a rant about it on this YouTube channel way earlier on when I hadn't yet gotten a handle of how this channel operated yet. Today I rewatched it for a third time to do a proper review on my channel since 1, I hadn't done that yet, and 2, hot take time. I have absolutely no problem with this movie. It's not the greatest animated film of all time, nor is it the worst. When I first saw it, it was literally smack dab in the middle of my ranking of 2017 animated films. I had seen a total of 9 of them that year, and there was 4 that were better than the Emoji Movie and like 4 that were worse. So it really was smack dab in the middle. So you're not going to see me saying, this is the best thing since sliced bread. But what you are going to hear is me tell you that it's definitely far from the worst. I think in a lot of ways this film goes over a lot of people's heads because it is about emojis, and in general people think that's just dumb. And they let that cloud their judgments as far as the story or the narrative goes, which is just one allegory after the next. And these allegories aren't that bad at all, honestly. Plus, it knows that emojis are kind of dumb. It's self-aware in that aspect because it's almost satirical in a way, taking jabs at the youth as their entire world is found within their smartphone. So guess what? We have a movie where the whole world is literally the smartphone. So it's satirical in a way that parents watching can be like, OMG, but also, it's relatable. So kids watching can connect with it. But let's also talk about some of those allegories that I alluded to. So Gene lives in a supposed utopia of sorts called Textopolis, which is essentially a dictatorship that forces everybody to act one predetermined way, and if they don't follow the rules, they get punished. And in this case, they flat out get murdered if they don't fall into society's expectations. And past that, they manipulate Gene into feeling bad for having all these different feelings that they don't want him to have, even though they're incredibly natural feelings. It's a misfit story that obviously our hero has to go on a journey of self-discovery to find out that it's not a crime to feel the way that he feels. That the whole world might judge you for what you are or who you are, but that's no reason to conform to their expectations just to avoid their judgment. Forgive me for saying this, but I actually think that's incredibly deep. It's not wholly original, as this is a trope that we see a lot in kids' movies, but to call this movie dumb just because it's emojis is not a very smart way to approach it. In my previous ranting video, one of my main points was that this film is quite simply put personification. I mean, once you strip away the mask or maybe the skin of this film being, emojis or being a smartphone, being whatever, what you end up with are characters that simply are serving a function. All they're doing is trying to completely fulfill a plot. The plot here is kind of like Lord of the Rings. It's an adventure story where our heroes have to get from a literal point A to a literal point B because they sense some sort of value in completing the mission. That's it. That's the whole kit and caboodle. So it's not that complicated, but people start complicating it when they overanalyze this kids movie about the obstacles these emojis have to overcome, like showing up at Candy Crush or Just Dance or the Dropbox or whatever, since they see these things as product placement. Now, to be clear, I've almost never cared that much about product placement because product placement is now kind of just what you expect with life. I mean, you see people walking down the street with a picture of Darth Vader on their shirt. But do you go up to them and start complaining about product placement, that they're advertising Star Wars? No, because you don't care. You completely overlook it. Same thing here, and in the world of a smartphone, how do you imagine they go about traversing the apps found in a smartphone without advertising one app or another? Now, I personally believe that going through apps like Just Dance or Candy Crush or whatever makes it that much more believable that this is an actual kid's smartphone, because these are apps that you might find on a kid's smartphone. It makes sense. And it also helps that the film reminds you that this is a self-aware film that knows exactly what it's doing. Now, I'll be the first to admit that I'm nowhere near the target audience here. I think that there are some jokes that parents watching with their kids can appreciate, but it's much more of a kids movie than it is anything else. So definitely keep that in mind. That being said, I have seen it 3 times. And not once during these rewatches have I ever gotten tired or annoyed with it. It's completely fine as a movie. It does what it intends to do. The visuals, the animation, it's all basically what you come to expect from Sony animation up to this point, and it's not bad. You know, it's very colorful, the characters are diverse, there's depth to the story that can even be perceived as political in nature. There's a solid narrative arc here with clear obstacles. There's a threat that is both physical and intrinsic in nature, and the voice talent here makes sense for the characters that they represent. Now, I personally really enjoyed the fact that Patrick Stewart played Poop. You know, it's perfect for this elegant actor to play such a ridiculous emoji. And again, they knew exactly what they were doing. I cannot stress that enough. There's even more than one character in this film that has an identity crisis. They're hiding away because the world is not ready to accept them or understand them for who they are. And again, that can be perceived as allegory for any sort of minority. One last time. Again, I can't stress this enough. I think people are overanalyzing this kids movie, expecting it to be something that it's not, or something like that. I also think that a lot of people's minds were already made up before they ever pressed play. I've seen so many people on YouTube alone who are like, this is going to be my first watch for the Emoji Movie. Let's see how stupid it really is. You don't think that affects the mindset of your experience? Come on. Let's go ahead and break down my final score. From an unbiased technical level, I think that there were some deep things going on in this movie in terms of the constant allegories it presents with a number of tongue-in-cheek jokes. I thought the visuals in terms of the animation were pretty great, just as they usually are for Sony animation, and the diverse group of characters was actually pretty great. It's still not the best movie in the world. It never will be. But I've never had a problem with most of the things that other people have a problem with. This score is 76%. As for my bias score, or how I felt about the film in general, I don't know. I like it. I do. I consider it rewatchable. I've seen it several times at this point, and I wouldn't mind owning it either because my kids actually love it. But again, I'm not really in the target audience. So it's not going to be a perfect score, but it's also not going to be terrible. It's going to be pretty decent at 80%. When we average out the 2 scores together, we come to the final rating of 78%. 78 out of 100 possible stars, or a C+ letter grade. So if you haven't seen this movie because you're too afraid of all the bad marketing or bad press, then I suggest that you watch it. I implore that you watch it. People are looking too deep into it, and I'm not entirely sure why. It is a kids movie, and a kids movie that actually teaches a few worthwhile lessons in the process. If you have seen it, on the other hand, let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and the bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us.